Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another indie book review. This time I am reviewing The Hunted by Pip Coomes, not to be confused with the other book called The Hunted I reviewed not too long ago. This is a YA fantasy all about a young man named William who is going to this strange school after discovering that he has abilities he did not know he had and learning all about them while also fighting off vampires. So it's a little bit confusing there, but let's get into it. When I first read about the synopsis when the author sent it to me, I was a little bit iffy because I don't usually read magical school books. It's not something I've ever been that intrigued by, but what really intrigued me as a part of this was the prophecy, because there's a prophecy about this long forgotten son that will return, and in returning, everything's gonna kick off. The vampires who have just been bothering them are gonna ramp up. There are some werewolves that are gonna get involved. And it's sort of this case of he could be the savior they'll need, or he could fail and everyone will die. And I really like prophecies like that. I don't like prophecies where it basically spoils the ending in the prophecy, where it's like, yes, this hero will then save the day and everything will be fine. In this case, it's like, he could save the day, this mysterious guy, when he returns, or he could screw everything up royally. And it was that prophecy that really intrigued me, and hence why I read. Now, I am about to say something that I don't know that I can fully substantiate, and I will explain why. But this book felt a lot like Harry Potter. And the reason I don't know that I can fully substantiate that claim is I have had only sideline interaction with Harry Potter. I have never read this series. I watched the first, 4 or 5 movies at one point in time when a friend just would not give up until I did it. I watched them through once and never again. And I work in an elementary school, so I am often in a classroom while a teacher is reading it aloud, so I've heard snippets, so I know the writing style. And of course, I have spoken with a lot of Harry Potter fans online. So I am torn between the idea of this feels like Harry Potter kept popping up in my head, as much as do I fully know what that means was at war the entire time. But we have a young man who has mysterious backgrounds, and everyone seems to be particularly interested in going to this magical boarding school where they are studying potions and things. There's one professor teaching dark magic stuff that seems to have particular umbrage with him. There is a elderly principal that seems to take particular interest in him. There's the kindly but firm older woman, professor, or I guess they're just teachers, and there are not house elves, but they have house trolls, and so in a lot of ways I'm like, this has to be at least semi-inspired by, if nothing else. There's not houses, but there are still, they're still divvied up among dormitories, so I went back and forth so much of the time on, is this a thing? Do I know enough about this thing to say this is a thing? So in general, I honestly need someone else who's read the series to read this to let me know if those claims are substantiated. But one of the ways I know that it is definitely different is the vampires. This island that our school is on is also half filled with vampires, and they are your classic horror movie vampires where they're basically soulless and evil. They're not just a different state of being that is then, a sad boy. So I liked that. I like the classic, they're just evil monsters that can kill you vampires. And the fight scenes with the vampires, very well done, very tense, and I liked it. There's also some elves, and they're very much your high fantasy, mysterious enigma, tall, graceful elves. Although low-key, still looking for that high fantasy, the orcs, the good guys, and the elves are the bad guys, but that's neither here nor there. So it felt like that magical boarding school with some extra aspects added on top of it. There were some great dynamics between the students there. William and Penelope, who are our 2 main POV characters, have great interactions with a lot of the friends, and it feels like a friend group. I don't know that I would say it's a found family quite yet. However, it's only the first book in a series, so my guess would be that the relationships will grow even stronger and even more tightly knit to become that found family in the future. This one just didn't read as much like it. Now, this is a strange case where I probably will not be continuing with the series but I would still high-key recommend it because, and as I mentioned before, I don't really read magical schools. And a lot of my struggles with the book, I have to admit that they were struggles, that they were things I was like, but they're also just part and parcel of the genre. So I can't be like, it's a bad book. I have to say it's a not for me book. Like, there were things where, and I've heard people make these kind of jokes about Harry Potter before, where it's like, things that were very clearly dangerous to like the lives / souls of the students were kind of just, you know, brushed off. They were given warnings, but it didn't feel as dire. For example, there was like, hey, there's this lake, and if the water even so much as touches you, you could be sucked under and lost forever in your soul trap for all eternity. So, you know, just kind of watch your step while we walk right by that. Like, and I'm like, what? Why? Why are we even going near this giant cursed can damn you for eternity lake? Why aren't we saying, like, don't ever go there? It was like that kind of thing. Like, hey, there's evil vampires that want to kill people on the island. Why are we just randomly flying around on our brooms? Like, there was this moments where it was a kind of logical thing, which in a magical school book is standard. But for me, who does not usually read that kind of genre, was like, seriously? Like, I get that y'all need to learn magic, but like, at some point you gotta just respect that things are too dangerous and you need to change the curriculum to make it less life-threatening. The prophecy also in this book is explained a little bit. It's very dramatically vague. And if you like your dramatically vague prophecies, then I would highly suggest that. But there's not too much to be done with it in this book, which is probably another reason I struggled with it, because that was the biggest draw for me. But you kind of expect that in the first in a series, because it's like they're not gonna, you know, the fulfillment of the prophecy in its full form is going to be something that happens late in the series. You can't, you know, show everything, show your hand in the first book. But because that was the reason that I was like really into it, it's kind of also why I struggled. So that's why I said I probably won't continue with the series, only because as much as I love the prophecy and I love the classic vampire monsters, a lot of the we're in a magical school aspect just didn't really vibe well with me. I've mentioned it before, and this one kind of proves it. I have no real inclination to read Harry Potter because I don't like that kind of genre. So it's one of those things where I would definitely suggest this for anyone who loves that genre or loves Harry Potter. It's just not for me. And on top of that, and let me be as vague as possible here, within our friend group, there looks to be a fairly complicated love triangle, or I think another character described it as a love hexagon, and I just don't like that in books in general. And again, it's a taste thing. There are some people who are like, love triangles, yes. Never really my thing, mostly because I have this nasty habit of always going with the one that the main character doesn't pick, and then I was like, WTF, and getting annoyed that they didn't go with that one. Because it's a thing. If you make a love triangle, you take a risk that your readers will not like the person in that love triangle that the character goes with. So in that aspect, I'm probably just not gonna move on with it, but it is still very much worth your time if you enjoy this kind of thing. So with that in mind, I gave it 3 stars. Not the best book for me, but could be an absolute 5-star for someone else. So definitely check this out if it sounds interesting to you. I really, really hope that it can get around, because despite some things that I just wasn't feeling, the writing style is definitely there, the characters are there, and again, I just really need someone to tell me if I'm correct or totally off base with the whole Harry Potter thing, because I got no idea. Now, if you are an indie author and you'd be interested in a review like this one, or maybe not like this one, please email me. I will have my email down in the description below. I will also have my review policy down there. Please give that a read through. It answers a lot of questions and saves us a lot of time. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.